Welcome again to Perspectives with Asima Silva. We don't have Hank today, but he's going to be missing out on a great discussion. We have Imam Malik Mujahid with us. And as you know, with Perspectives, I have gotten a lot of guests, blessed with so many wonderful guests, locally, nationally, and internationally. And today our guest is, I cannot begin to describe the amount of qualifications and experience he has. And we will touch on many different topics. Just to give you an idea of what experience I'm talking about, as he was a chairperson of the Parliament of World Religions, which I didn't even know existed, so we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Was also involved in the Bosnia task force that really helped bring some of the perpetrators of the Bosnian war to justice. And now he's also spearheading the Burma task force. So with my experiences, I have heard him personally do a speech, very, very impressed. And I also now, and full disclosure, also co-lead the Massachusetts chapter of the Burma task force. And that is how I do know this Imam. And today I am so blessed that he is one of our guests. So thank you, Imam, for coming. And I know you're visiting from Chicago today, and you took a time out of a very, very busy schedule to be with us. In fact, right before you came, I have a bunch of friends who were chatting online about when you are going to give your speech tonight at the mosque. And I actually very proudly told them all, I'm interviewing him before the speech, so he's not going to leave until I am done interviewing him. So that is how popular you are with the Muslim community and non-Muslim community. Really, they really look forward to hearing from you and your perspective and your advice on many different topics. So please introduce yourself if I haven't done the proper job, which I'm sure I have not. And thank you again for joining us today.
Well, Asma, thank you so much. It's a blessing to be with you, and I'm glad you are a TV host, and I heard that it goes across on radio as well. I'm myself a producer, although more like executive producer. We have a Radio Islam. One of the person who was trained on Radio Islam became the first Muslim women reporter on television, and so I'm president of Sound Vision as well. That's my job. Rest is my volunteer work. So I'm glad you introduced me through my volunteer work, but this is what I do.
I did want to touch base with you on what Sound Vision does and all the wonderful projects that it's done. And it's not something new. Sound Vision is not new. It's been around for a while.
Well, to be exact, 30 years ago this month.
And can you explain to our viewers and listeners what exactly different areas of Sound Vision that it has explored and really gained market in?
Sound Vision essentially does three areas of work. One is public relations for the Muslim community. Our material is used by American embassies across the world. The State Department have issued things, what we do. We also develop resources which are also used. So we started out producing for Muslim community. So we have a daily radio show in Chicago. We produce weekly Adam's World. But we did not realize that our messages were being accepted. So churches started using it, neighbors started using it. Hospitals say, can we adopt some of this material and use it in our hospitals? Military officers around the world, they take our material. So we started out developing educational material, which we still do. But we are mainly sort of public relations and media development for the Muslim community, and also a whole lot of resource development. For example, just like all communities, domestic violence does exist as a human being in the Muslim community as well. So you will find guides on manual for imams, which New York State has taken copyrights from us to include in their clergy manual. So how to live Islam in your neighborhood. That's the focus of content one can find on soundvision.com.
So you mentioned a couple of issues that a lot of people are curious about on how Islam views on those issues. And I, when I had first met you, that's what impressed me the most, is just so that our viewers share in the experience that I had experienced with the interaction that I had with you. We were talking about, it was after an event, and we happened to be talking about the Muslims in America, and it was 2 years ago. It was right when, the elections were happening and Islamophobia was really on the uprise. And I had mentioned to you that, in my opinion, that Muslims in America have this relationship with America as a domestic violence victim. We have, a impression of walking away from situations and saying, I'm still alive, it's okay as long as I'm still alive, and being able, and kind of having that impression of it's okay to take some certain abuse because we are so used to it. The same kind of mentality that a domestic violence victim plays in their head. And you had stopped and just looked at me, and instead of, what I would assume some men would have done is turn around and said, not understood my connection of the metaphor that I was using. And what impressed me was you got it right away. And you said, you know what, write an article on it, I'll publish it. I am on to that, I will do that. And I know it's been about 2 years, and I actually in my to-do list that I will do that. But do you get these kind of questions on Radio Islam, and do you address these issues that are being faced in American society that people are curious about on what Islam says? Or is Radio Islam basically for just kind of disseminating what information that most people might just know if they picked up a book? Because these issues are...
The name Radio Islam itself created a debate.
Okay.
There were several hundred people involved when we wanted to start this program. Most Muslims were saying, have some other name than Islam, because of the same thing, one wants to hide and doesn't want to deal with it. And all my friends and all my neighbors of other faith, they were studying, no, if it doesn't have Islam, why in the world I want to tune into another radio program? There has to be a reason. So that itself started setting its tone. So Radio Islam is not about preaching a faith.
That was my question.
Radio Islam is a conversation among our neighbors. Okay. Producers and hosts are Muslims most of the time. Guests are Muslims and neighbors of other faith based on the expertise they have. So it's a public affair program, so it deals with family issues and life-related issues, life cycle issues, and anything which comes in, and people just call in and start talking. It's pretty popular. Actually, several Nobel Peace Laureates have been its guests, professors, top scholars, even very well-known Islamophobes like Robert Spencer has been our guest as well. Pamela Gerer refused to be our guest. She said, unless I have Robert Spencer, I'm not going to be. So, okay, we'll talk to Robert Spencer directly, then you don't need to be there. So it's a conversation among neighbors. People call in and they tune in and they say, oh, this is the thing. And many things happen because of that. For example, you mentioned Parliament of the World's Religions. I was familiar with that. It's a 120-year-old organization. It coined the term interfaith. There used to be no interfaith term, although neighbors are always neighbors, they relate to each other. When they approached me, they wanted me to become its chair. I said, why you want me to be the chair? They said, we listen to Radio Islam. These voices are very fresh, and we're just amazed. We didn't know Muslim can talk, and we didn't know Muslim women can talk. So you need to probably face that. They say, where did you get these women? I say, I didn't get them. They have their parents, and they are so it has started helping our neighbors realize that there is a voice which is very unique, which is very Muslim, which is authentic, and which feels the way our neighbors feel. They feel the same way about 9/11. They feel the same way about ISIS. And when people go around, what do you think about that? So everyone else is talking about Islam and Muslim. It's about time that we talk.
That's true. That's true, and that's why I wanted to ask that question: is the motivation and the goal behind Radio Islam. Now, when you talked about Parliament of World Religions, I had never heard of this particular group or organization, and you just said it was how many years old?
To be exact, 125 years ago it was established.
Okay, 125. And what was your experience with that? Well, I found out from a common friend of ours that you know the Dalai Lama, you know so many influential people on a first name basis, and I was amazed. And I'm like, I have to get him on my show and ask him, what is it like to know these people, and what kind of questions and conversations did you have?
Well, first disappointment is that I missed the inaugural meeting 125 years ago by a month or two. So I'm not quite sure what were the motivation, but there were some bright people. They wanted to know about the world. And Chicago at that time was a very little city. Actually, second largest city was St. Louis, not Chicago. That was the time and that was the era. So they invited different people. Interesting enough, most of the mainstream religions at this moment were not supportive. They thought, what is a freak idea about different religions talking? Current, word parliament is connected with the word dialogue. So when people say parliament, they think it probably means passing some resolution or something.
Right, more like
or some laws.
Law
it's not like
system.
that. It's a parliament in the sense that people talk, have conversation. So it initiated a dialogue, a respectful listening to others, and seeing if people have common ground, and they develop a common program to work with each other. I'll give you an example, the benefit of dialogue. When Jewish people, about 70 years ago, when they were running away from Nazi Germany, they were not allowed to enter United States. A ship named St. Louis brought 908 kids. Not a single one of them were allowed to enter United States. They were sent back. And according to one research, half of them died. According to another research, 1/3 of them were murdered by Nazis. Wow. At the same time, Anne Frank's father, everybody knows Anne Frank diary. Not many people know Anne Frank's father wrote letter after letter to get Anne Frank and her sister into America. I say, I don't care, but I like to save my daughters. Mm-hmm. And there's a big, thick file has been discovered of their application. They wanted fee and money and this. They did everything. But we know how Anne Frank died. Right. So what did Jewish people do to turn it around? Interfaith was already in existence. The neighbors talking to neighbors. That's for interfaith. Neighbors working with neighbors. That's interfaith. Interfaith is not just putting all faith in a bottle and shaking it up to come up with something. So some people have confusion. So Parliament of the World Religion was the institution which coined the term interfaith. So Jewish people invested in interfaith in 70, 80 cities. So they established organizations. Some of those organizations still survive. And then conversation began. So Jews for history, for centuries were accused of being the Jesus killer. You don't hear that on Good Friday or anywhere on the TV any longer. That is because they enter into conversation with the Christian neighbors. You say, I live here, I'm your neighbor, I didn't kill Jesus.
Right.
And this is theology change. Catholic who were blamed a lot on Holocaust and whatnot, that changed. So dialogue has power. Europe used to fight with itself. What they call World War I, World War II, in which so many Americans also died, essentially it was European war. Unfortunately, a lot of Muslim countries also, which were occupied by Europeans, got into that war and all that. They were European war. So Europeans who were fighting for 300 years, how come they started talking to each other and started opening border after border? So you land in France and there are 27 countries you can cross without any visa and all that. That's the power of dialogue and conversation, goodness of humanity. So interfaith is power. Faith itself is power. In America, it's a very church-going country. People attend churches and religious places of worship. Actually, 43% people surveyed in America say they attend at least once, at least 3 times a month, a church or a synagogue or a mosque. So when they ask question, Gallup always asks the question that which institution you respect the most. The lowest institution comes politician, Congress, and forgive me, media.
Yeah.
Among the top institutions come religion, although you hear everybody ridiculing religious. So America is a religious people who believe on neighbor, love, and taking care of each other. That's what America is. Unfortunately, sometimes we limit that power within the community, the Muslim community and the Christian community and the Jewish community. They are good among themselves. But that's not getting the essence of the faith. So when people of different faith meet and talk to each other, then what happens, what God has said in the Quran, that God has given different path to people. Now you need to compete in goodness. And differences among you, when you come back to God, God will resolve the differences. Right. So I'm a firm Muslim. I'm a practicing Muslim. I'm a conservative Muslim. I have very conservative values. But I value the humanity of the other person. And I trust that that person knows what is good, that person. That person will ask me what my faith is, I'll tell that person. But if that person is trying to help somebody, I want to join that person.
But you brought up a very good point that, kind of sparked some questions in my head. You're describing that currently America is a country of faith, that has faith. But atheism is on the rise. A lot of, worshiping institutions such as Christianity or Judaism or even Muslims, they're seeing a lack of youth involvement in their places of worship. Do you see this changing? And what do we see in the future if we end up being a country that isn't as faithful as we may be now?
What I think, Asma, is that young people are reacting to bad aspect of institutional religion. So we'll say, I'm a spiritual, I'm not religious. What they are saying is that I don't want to associate with the bad aspect of faith. I mean, let's dwell in some stereotypical images. A church where priest abuses boys, a religion where people think that they can kill anybody. There are images out there. So we'll say, no, that's so they are reacting to bad behavior of human being who claim to be following a certain religion.
Right.
And that is being taken advantage of those people who are either agnostic or atheist. And that's another reason that people of faith should understand each other and work with each other. And they will find some commonality. A Lutheran bishop, friend of mine, sent me a clipping from Australia. And that clipping was they surveyed people, and 100 people who said they really hate Islam. They gathered to them. And then they brought 30, 40 Muslims. There were no lecture plan. There were no Quran reading or Bible reading. There was no biryani or hummus or any of the apple pie or nothing. Just people to people. And after 2-3 hours, I don't know exact what time it was, a few hours, they then surveyed those people who said they hated Islam. Guess what? Majority of them now said, no, I really don't hate Islam. I mean, I'm okay. These are my neighbors. So sometimes we allow intermediary, media, politician, and somebody to interpret things for us which we don't know. What we need to do is, based on our faith, trusting the neighbor, we bypass the intermediary and we touch hand with other. And that's where the real spark of connection will come. They will know you're worried about the thing, they are worried, they have aspiration for children, which you have aspiration for children. And they will learn from each other. And that's why America is amazing. I mean, a whole lot of people keep changing their faith also. Not only we're a religious country, but we continuously change faith to faith because we are curious people. And we love each other and want to know each other and we like to be like others. There are a lot of people who become Muslim. I mean, so much propaganda against Islam and Muslim in this country, but there are people I meet, they're Muslim, and I wonder, you know, do you think this is the popular place to be in today?
Right.
And they say, you know, I don't care what people say, this is what I believe.
You have so much experience with Sound Vision, Radio Islam, working with politicians on the different task force that you were on, that you had done with Bosnia. I would like to touch upon that in just one moment. But what are the issues that you see at hand right now? You've had experience religiously, politically, socially. What are the major issues that you see that America as a whole is facing, and what can we do about it?
America was the greatest when we helped rebuild the enemy. Nazi Germany, what they did to world, what they did to Jews, what they did to a whole lot of people. We had a Marshall Plan. We invested in rebuilding that country. That's our openness. That's our vision. That's our helping even the enemy. That's more Christian-like. That's what Jesus would do. We have turned it around now because of the fear and hate and anger developed after 9/11. But the nature of fear, hate, and anger is it doesn't stop at one place. It is started out against Muslim, although neighbors have nothing to do with that. Some terrorists came from outside and they did their job and they perished. None of them were Americans. None of them were American Muslims. American Muslim didn't know them. So once it started in terms of hate, fear, and anger, it didn't stop there. It turned towards immigrant, and now it is turning towards black, and it's now turning towards poor white people. There are people stereotyping white people. And as a human being, we better watch out. And now people, because they know the dream of America, older dream, which is a shining and bright dream, Christians walking all the way several countries, Christians reaching our border, want to apply for asylum. And before they could apply for asylum, we snatch their babies and separate them. Which Christian will do that? When will Jesus love that type of practice? Now we don't know several hundred of babies who their parents are, where their parents are. Parents are deported, children are here. It's a heartbreaking. That's not the America which make America great. America was made great that when we had a constitution beautiful, then we say, oh, in this constitution women cannot vote, so we better change that. In this constitution, black are not full human being, let's change that. Everybody should have equal civil rights. So America keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. I'm one person, I'm not economic refugee. I have a better car in Pakistan. I have a better house in Pakistan. I literally have tens of thousands of people who love me and cherish what I do. But I did not have democracy. I read Constitution of the world and I read Constitution of America. That's why I am here. So when people go against the Constitution in practice or in spirit or don't care for it, I hate to say, but I feel like cheated. I sacrifice everything for this country. This is my country. Somebody just while coming here, we stopped for a fire engine and we started moving, and somebody, I don't know what they had, they caught us on the next signal and wanted to say something. I didn't realize what they were saying, so I lowered the window. He used some curse word and asked me to go back. And then he drove away. I want to tell him, if it is going back, you came first, you leave first. I just came here.
First in, first out.
I just came here. So I think we all Americans need to rethink whether love, open heart, mercy gonna win us over, or rejecting, closing heart, closing door will make us break. This is something which, if we understand that, the diversity of America which we and our values created, people buy in our values, before they come here. Some could be good and some could be bad, just like other human beings. But by and large, people buy into our value. People buy into American dream when they arrive here. They already accepted us. But if we open our heart as we used to, if we open opportunities for those people, then diversity is going to be as American as apple pie. And this China and all these people, they say tyrannies, they are dictatorship, they are communism. They're just looking for the material aspect of it and making money. They don't have the vision. Is there anything called Chinese dream? Right. Nothing like that. Nobody has what we have. We have people around the world. We know the streets of the world. We know languages of the world. We could be eyes or ears for America. But does America realize this is strength or not? And that's the message which I like America to know. So we need to liberate America through fear, hate, and anger. That's how America will move forward.
And you're doing this with Radio Islam. Is there any other avenues that...
whether it's a Parliament of the Religion, Radio Islam, Sound Vision, Burma Task Force, everything which I do is the reason I chose to live in this country, that I need to be a bridge builder. I need to be communicating with people, so I have developed multiple institutions, and that remains my primary focus. Building bridges of understanding among neighbors, because I believe in the greatness of America, but I don't believe that we are stuck at one level. I think we as a human being, we have cycle. A country and a nation is like human being. They go up, they go down. When they go down, you need to resolve to bring it up.
What would you like to say? We only have a couple minutes left, but we talked mostly on this show, particularly about your experience with the Parliament of World Religions and you as with Sound Vision. What would you like our listeners and our viewers to walk away with in terms of, if you're going to take anything away from this show, and you've said a lot of great advice and what we should be looking for in our future, but what would be something, a gem, that they could walk away from this show, that if you had something for them to just cling on to, what would it be?
What I'm hearing from scholars in think tanks which I attend and participate, and different scholars, they're saying the current phase of America in which fear, hate, and anger has money involved and it's on the rise. They think it will take at least a couple of generations before people are able to overcome. So if you want to take away one thing from what I'm saying, I would say develop a personal plan of your family. It doesn't matter you're white or you're black or a brown or another beautiful shade which God has created. Develop a personal plan. How will you overcome fear, hate, and anger within your family and your neighborhood? We've got to liberate our country and take it back to higher values which brought it to the level that we are the leader of the Western civilization, which is followed by every human being around the world.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we will have more conversations, because you have so much experience and so many questions that I still have left to ask you. Thank you again for joining us on Perspectives, and I hope you join us again on Perspectives with Asma Silva.